Okay, here is part C, or the last part of the lecture for Bridgemont Community Technical College, the topic on education for human development. I want to change up and talk a little bit now about public versus private schools. Again, the way children develop in school systems, and children spend more time in school than they do with their parents, quite frankly, during these years. That's why I'm spending some time talking about education and schooling. In 2007, 90% of school-age children attended primary and secondary state-funded public schools. So 90% of students were in public schools, whereas in 2007, 10% of school-age children attended private schools. And pretty much that's pretty much the breakdown even today. You fast forward that 6 or 7 years, and it's still about a 90-10 split. Most private schools students attend in this country are Catholic schools. And I'll bet I have some Catholic students watching this, or former Catholic students watching this. Private schools, there are approximately 6,000 non-religious private schools that enroll mostly young people from well-to-do families. They're very expensive. Private schools cost money. You don't generally get to send your kid to a private school for free if you're a parent. They're expensive, and they're often very prestigious. So they cater to the sort of the top of the socioeconomic status ladder, if you will. They're often called prep schools. And they offer a lot of advantages, quite frankly, that even public schools don't or can't offer because of the money that's funneled into these schools, which can create an unfair playing field for students in public schools versus these private schools. We could talk about that later. A couple things to fill in here. The racial and ethnic composition of students enrolled in public schools was 58% non-Hispanic white, 20% Hispanic, 16% non-Hispanic black, 4% Asian Pacific Islander, and 1% American Indian Alaska Native. Now in private schools, the racial and ethnic composition was 74% non-Hispanic white. So we're seeing a larger proportion of Caucasians, white people, who are attending private schools. 10% non-Hispanic black, 9% Hispanic, regardless of race, 6% Asian Pacific Islander, 1% American Indian, Alaska Native. So we look at the disparity there, and we can see that white people, for whatever reason, are more able to afford and take advantage of private schools, which could offer things, services, amenities that maybe public schools cannot offer. That's not saying private schools are better than public schools at all. As reported by teachers in 2007 and 2008, among public school teachers, and you just have a few things to fill in, of self-contained classes in elementary schools, the average class size was 20.3 students per class. In private schools, 18.1. So that teacher to student ratio, that's an important number. And that doesn't seem like a big difference there, and it's not a huge difference, but it's a difference nonetheless. In 2007, 2008, the average annual base salary of a regular full-time public school teacher was $49,600. And public school teachers do make more money than private school teachers, and it's not even close. It is a significant difference, $36,300 on average for private school teachers. Results from grade 4, a reading in the U.S. All private schools were compared to public schools. So there's all this talk about, reading, math, spelling, all these different scores. Are they really higher in private schools? Are private schools doing that much of a better job of educating students than public schools? Well, what you're going to find is that private schools do produce higher test scores, higher achievers, but a criticism of that is, well, they're cherry picking. They're getting the kids who have the most advantage, who have parents with the most money, who are motivated and encouraged to be in school more than kids maybe in normal, regular public schools. So you've already kind of got the best of the best, if you will, in the private schools. So they're going to perform better. That's an opinion, and it merits some observation and discussion. The average private school mean reading score was 14.7 points higher than the average public school mean reading score. That's significant. Mathematics from grade 4, all private schools compared to public schools again in this country. Private school mathematics score on average was 7.8 points higher than the average public school mean mathematics score. Again, significantly higher. All private schools were compared to all public schools. Again, results from grade 8 reading. 18.1 points higher was the mean reading score in private schools over public schools. Those are huge differences. Grade 8 mathematics, United States, 2006. The average private school mathematics score was 12.3 points higher than average public school mean mathematics scores. So again, we start to look at this and think, man, maybe our kids should all go to private schools. Well, again, what you have to remember, public schools take everybody. They also factor in the lowest of the low achievers, children with mental impairment. So that those test scores in those schools, in public schools, are going to be pulled down. Whereas in private schools, again, you tend to have more of the economically advantaged and higher achieving students, kids anyway. Private school statistics at a glance, PK through 12 enrollment, roughly 5.5 million. Number of schools, 2009, 2010, 33,366. Kind of heading to the end here. Where do private school students go to school? This kind of breaks down, and you have this in your PowerPoint as well, so you can kind of look at this. Look at this at your leisure. Catholic, 54.5% from 1989 to 1990. 2009, 2010, 42.8% of private school attendees were Catholic. And it breaks it down in terms of non-sectarian, etc. And you have this, you could look at it on your own as well from what I sent you. Some other things I'm not going to belabor, but you can kind of look at. Average private school tuition. You can see it breaks it down in terms of elementary, secondary, K through 12, and then all levels, kind of averages it out. And you have the source there as well. So it gives you an idea what kind of money you might be spending. What schools do families with incomes over $75,000 a year select? Public, still 85%. Private, 12%. Both, 3%. When you look at families who are making $200,000 a year or millions of dollars a year, more of those parents will select private schools because they can afford them. They can afford those schools. And we have some private school SAT scores, which are definitely above average. You kind of see that public schools, religious, and independent schools. The independent schools actually have the highest SAT scores of 2010, and public schools are kind of in third and last place there. There are a lot of criticisms of public education in the U.S. One of the big ones I see, the average school day in the U.S. is only 188 days in a calendar year. In Japan, they go 240 days. A lot of people condemn our summer off policy because there's a lot of forgetting, and teachers have to reteach a lot of things because of the layoff during summer. U.S. school children score lower on standardized tests than children from any other industrialized country in the world. So of all the modern countries, industrialized countries, we're kind of at the bottom with our test scores. So that's a criticism. American education has been deemed a failure by some people. I don't know if I would go that far personally, but you could look at and find some failures within our public educational system, for sure. A lot of the American public feels that our system of education is failing and needs to be completely fixed or overhauled. There are also praises of public education. I would like to highlight those. 99% of children ages 6 to 13 are in school. In 1900, only 7% of age-appropriate children graduated from high school. In 1990, it was 86%. So we've come a very long way. African-American high school graduation rates, we've come a very long way. In 1964, it was 45%, under half of African-Americans who were age-appropriate graduated from high school. 1987, it's 83%. So a significant change there. Over 2/3 of the American population has high school diplomas, way more than any other country in the world. So that speaks to our access to education, how important the educational system and schooling is or are in helping our adolescents and young adults to develop appropriately. And most Western countries have modeled their educational systems after hours here in the United States. And I know you see this slide here. I'm not going to talk about school choice vouchers, magnet schools, and charter schools, even though I did send it to you. I wanted to at least put it up here on the video so I could tell you not to worry about these. We're not going to discuss these in class or at all, so you can just scratch through that slide. But if you're curious, you can email me, and I can let you know how to find information or even talk to you about what these different school choices really are and what they mean. So, okay, and we'll call that the end of the last part of the lecture on education. Thank you.